The floor are balloons. The target's a balloon. The player is, that's right, a balloon. Oh, and the game's called Pop. Can you guess the theme of this one? Hello and welcome to yesteryear's Mac Games, where today, Pop the balloon dog is on his way to the moon, and I'm not entirely sure why the main character is named after what would be its primary mode of exploration. I suppose the human version of this would be calling somebody something like heart disease. Mind you, it doesn't seem to bother Pop, who happily bounces around the 87 stages in search of the starry blue balloon. This shareware title emerged in 1997 from a collaboration of developers who called themselves Zero Entertainment, with the primary dev for this one being Russell Ginns. Zero Entertainment, from what I can see, released 3 games and teased a few others on their site, but disbanded quite soon after they came together. Specialising in products for a younger demographic, Russell then went on to working for a number of online educational platforms. He also wrote some children's books and contributed to other software projects, among other things. Pop hit both Windows and Macs, with the latter requiring a 100 MHz PowerPC chip and 16 MB of RAM. It runs on systems 7 through 9, although my usual OS 9 Mac has a number of audio issues with the game, which might be the fault of its version of QuickTime being too new. So all this gameplay has been captured on my 233 MHz PowerBook, running macOS 8.5. Controls are simple, just the arrow keys to move and spacebar to bark. Woof indeed. This puzzle platformer starts off simple enough, with a few stages introducing hazards one by one, before then progressing into more complicated situations. There's no backstory or explanation as to why Pop wants to get to the moon. It doesn't need it. Who needs silly details like that, when you can have balloon puns? Oh dear. Hazards include the yellow balloons, that can only be stood on for a few seconds before they give way, gigantic circular saws which float to and fro, bees, which buzz around the hive and pop pop if too close, discarded car batteries, or perhaps they're from old satellites, that makes more sense, which are probably my least favourite hazard, and zap various balloons in an anti-clockwise order, and a firework that ignites if Pop gets too close, and takes out everything in what I think is a 3-balloon radius. Barking does a few things, which includes giving the player a button to press while they wait for something to get out of the way. It scares away cats, which do a sort of Tasmanian devil spin if Pop gets too close, bursting the balloon animal in the process, and frightens these rather skittish porcupines, which pop adjacent balloons and can be useful for removing other hazards. Not every instance of these guys are straightforward, as a stage can combine one of the animals with a beehive, which kicks off if Pop barks anywhere near it. The puzzles never get particularly complicated, but a few of the later ones will need repeated attempts, and plenty of dexterity as the player learns the timing of various hazards. Level 80 took me the longest to do, having combined a zappy battery with a saw that Pop must chase through a red launching balloon that leads to an instantly igniting firework and beehive that I kept repeatedly falling foul of as I tried to get through before the explosion. It felt good to get through this one, but it was a bit of a shame that there weren't more that were this hard. This game was, however, developed for younger players, so it's appropriate. Throw in a couple of autoplay stages just because, and a few that are more of a race as Pop attempts to outrun explosions, and I didn't actually get bored during the hour and a bit that it took me to play through it. The pacing is good, and with the exception of a bit of screen tearing, which seems to be my hardware's fault rather than the game's, Pop looks quite nice, with smooth animations and pretty nifty sprites. Music was composed by Russell, it's all in MIDI, and while not the most complex, I still feel that the melodies are quite catchy. Sound effects are plentiful enough on the Mac, although they do tend to cut each other off. Videos of the Windows version that I've seen suggest that it doesn't have that issue, with it also having the added bonus of shifting pitches for things like Pop's bark and the jump sound. Pop's weakest aspect from my point of view is probably the variety of different objects and hazards. By stage 40 or so, the players encountered them all, and aside from some of the particularly challenging levels near the end, it doesn't really use them in a whole lot of different ways. Despite not really being all that inspired in the level design department, however, Pop is pretty fun to play, and something that can be jumped through at a leisurely pace by anyone looking for a title that's a bit more relaxed. I did smirk at the end screen here. Apparently Pop loves it there. It's a bit on the small side, but no spiky things I suppose. I may as well just mention that from a physics standpoint, everything is wrong. In space, a balloon would instantaneously explode due to there being no pressure in a vacuum, and there would be nothing for the cats and porcupines to breathe either. Mind you, The lack of oxygen in space would be the least of their worries, as they would be a tad preoccupied with a spot of ebulism, which is where the boiling points of all the bodily fluids drop and essentially fry them from the inside. Furthermore, the fuses on the fireworks wouldn't combust as they need oxygen. A vacuum can be a conductor, but I don't think electric charge can change directions like that. And sound doesn't travel through space, so Pop can't bark. At best, the only noise a balloon dog would be capable of is... This is of course, however, a computer game, so it doesn't matter, and we'll wrap things up here. If you're still hungry for retrospectives on Macintosh shareware from days gone by, check out some of my other videos. Select the subscribe button to keep on top of new content, and do share your thoughts and memories of Pop in the comments, or on the Twitter, @YYsMG. So, thanks for watching, hop back for the next one very soon.